You know, what if I told you there's a kind of secret code hidden in plain sight? A code that uses simple numbers to map out our most complex relationships. Today, we're going to unlock this exact sociological framework, one that starts with the number 143 and aims for 144, and in the process, turns the messy reality of human connection into a surprisingly simple and powerful story.
So let's just start with this big, almost kind of crazy question. Could a single number really define a perfect relationship? I know, it sounds a little out there, right? But stick with me, because we're about to unpack a system that suggests it can, using numbers to chart a course for our social lives from the very first step to the ideal destination.
Okay, so our journey starts with a number you've probably seen before, 143. Maybe you remember it from the old pager days or early text messages. This is our starting line. It's a familiar, simple code that kicks this whole thing off.
And then there's this, 144. Now this is our destination. This is the mysterious goal that we're working towards, the resolution that gives all the meaning to that first number, 143. This is the ideal state, and we're going to figure out exactly what it means.
All right, so let's really get into it. What exactly is the promise of 143? I mean, why is this number our starting point?
So 143, as you probably know, is code for I love you. One letter in I, 4 in love, 3 in you. Simple. But in this framework, it's way more than just 3 words. It's a symbolic act, an official affirmation. It's the moment trust gets put on the table, the official start of a cooperative story between two people.
But here's the thing, and this is absolutely crucial to understand. 143 is just the title of the book. It's not the actual story. Think of it as the promise, the cover art that gets you interested. It opens the door, sure, but all the real work, the actual building of the relationship, that all comes after.
Okay, so if 143 is the promise, then what's the goal? Where are we headed with this? Well, that brings us right to 144, a state that this framework calls perfect reciprocity.
So, 144, this is the end game. It's the metric for an ideal relationship. It's what happens when the promise of 143 is completely fulfilled. What you get is a complete, totally balanced and super stable social structure, and it can only be built by 2 equals.
And here's where the math behind the metaphor gets really, really cool. Why 144? Because it's 12 times 12. In this system, the number 12 represents a complete, whole individual, what's called a source. So 12 times 12 is literally source times source. It's a symbolic equation for 2 whole, complete people coming together as equals. Now, this whole way of thinking actually has a name. It's called structural dramaturgy. It's basically a fancy term for seeing our social lives as a kind of structured play, with different roles, conflicts, and hopefully resolutions. And in this play, the journey from 143 to 144 is basically the script for the perfect story arc.
And I just love these metaphors that the source material uses to describe this ideal state. Cinderella sociology, it's all about finding that perfect fit where everything just clicks. Mathematical wings, that describes a relationship so strong and stable that it can fly above any problems or context. And it all leads to a complete social construct, which is just a solid, reinforced structure built on 2 people truly seeing and recognizing each other. But of course, life isn't always a perfect story, is it? Not every relationship reaches that ideal. So what happens when the structures don't match up? Well, that's the central conflict in this whole narrative.
Let's break this down because this is really the core of it. On one side, you've got the ideal, a source interacting with another source. That's what the framework calls base 12, and it leads to total equality, 144. But on the other side, you get a mismatch, a source interacting with a subject. This is an unequal partnership, operating in base 10, and it creates imbalance and a diminished, incomplete result. And to make this super clear, the source material gives us this brilliant analogy. It says, this mismatch is like a little dog times big dog interaction. That fundamental difference in status, in power, completely changes the dynamic. You just can't get that mutual reinforcement when one person is operating on a totally different level.
And yeah, this next quote is incredibly direct, but it hammers the point home perfectly. The goal is to be an equal source, not the village bike. It's about maintaining principled equality, being a strong, independent partner, not just an object or a resource for someone else to use.
So let's just nail this down. A base 10 mismatch isn't just a different opinion or a bad day, it is a fundamental structural flaw.
It completely shatters the symmetry a healthy relationship needs to survive, and it basically puts a cap on its potential. With that mismatch, you can never, ever reach the stability of 144.
Okay, so we've got the theory, we've got the ideal, we've got the conflict, but so what? How do we actually use any of this? Let's talk about why this whole framework actually matters in the real world. Well, at its heart, this whole thing is really a powerful memory tool, a mnemonic device. The numbers 143 and 144 are super easy to remember, right? And they act like a mental map. They give us a simple shorthand to quickly evaluate our own interactions and a really clear goal to shoot for, building stronger, more equal relationships.
And here's that map laid out for you step by step. First, you start with the affirmation. Recognize the promise of 143. Then, you have to aim for parity, to strive for that source times source dynamic. Number 3, and this is a big one, you got to get good at spotting those source times subject imbalances. And finally, you consciously work to build the kind of reciprocity that gets you to that stable, complete goal of 144.
And really, this brings us all the way back to the whole point. This is a tool for what you could call effective sociology in our own lives. It's a way to make sure that we, and the people we care about, are treated as equal partners, as sources, and not reduced to the role of a diminished subject. Ultimately, it's about fostering real, genuine respect.
So I'll leave you with this. Using this new lens, I want you to take a look at your own social world. Are your most important relationships built on that source times source alignment, or can you maybe spot the diminished potential of a mismatch? It's a really powerful question to ask yourself. Thanks for tuning in.